All right, here we go. All right, thank you for being here again for the fifth episode of the roundtable. Now, I know this isn't the fifth stream that we've done, but it is the fifth episode in the kind of main story that we're kind of going through as we discuss all these different topics. So that being said, I want to say hello to everyone. Thanks for being here. If you're not here in the stream, then if you're here later on and you watch on, thanks for watching. It's going to be a very fun topic to talk about. So I'll just throw it to everyone else to kind of say their hellos. What's up, Anthony? Oh, kind of getting a little breakup from you, Anthony. We try again. Yeah, Sean at Kingdom in Context is live right now. So obviously there's going to be a ton of people there. But it's pretty awesome that you're here. Yeah, thanks for being here, guys. It's always a good conversation, and love that y'all come in here and kind of talk to us through the chat. But yeah, how you doing this Shabbat, Frankie? Nice, nice. What did you what do you put on the pizza? Peppers and onions, nice. We like to do beef sausage, like cheese and beef sausage. Um, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I eat Little Caesars. I enjoy it, but they have beef sausage, and so does Papa John's. I don't know if you have them around. Yeah, check them out. I think they have beef. They have beef pepperoni too. But anyways, totally off topic. Um, anyways, I'm not sure if Daryl is just listening or if he wants to say hello. Go ahead and try. If not, we'll cut it over to Joe. For some reason right now, no one else can be heard except me. So I don't know exactly what's going on. So give me just a second, guys. I'm sorry about that. I have all my settings are exactly how they normally are, so I don't know exactly what's going on. Maybe something got turned down in my mixer. No one can hear you, brother. Yeah, no, well, I'm saying in YouTube, no one can hear. They're saying they can only hear me. But like I didn't change any of my settings, so I'm not exactly sure why it's doing that. Like all my audio is up. Yeah, and it's all my volumes are all the way up. Obviously, my sound is up in Discord, so I can hear you. So I don't know why it's not going through. Look, we did it against Destructed, and it's just wrecking us. Mm. Mm-hmm. Okay, weird. And we're still only hearing me. We all let me know. I'm so sorry about this, guys. Like, literally, I changed nothing about my stream, and all of a sudden, no one can hear it. So, maybe I can go.
If you're in OBS, I got my OBS in front of me here. I could maybe, I don't know if your audio output, um, or that's, I guess, the one that I was looking at. But I guess that wouldn't control other people's mics. So never mind.
Yeah,
Like
dude, it's literally so weird because I don't have a single. There's not a single reason why. Like, I can hear you, so they should be able to hear you. I didn't change any settings. The voice is coming through Discord, so
I
I don't.
wonder if maybe YouTube had something wrong. YouTube screws up all the time, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, I bet it sounds funny to them where they can only hear me. Oh, y'all can hear? Does this sound like whispers?
Wonder what that would be.
Let me try that.
Oh, you know what? My volume is halfway up. It looks like output.
I can hear you fine. It literally makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because all the voices that I'm hearing are here. They're at a normal level, all of them, including Gator Bear. Okay, weird.
I did started changing some of y'all's voices up, so hopefully that will
Let me
change.
keep talking to see. So the sound's getting through. It's just not getting like amplified or something, probably. Oh, YouTube. I'm blaming YouTube. They took down one of my videos today.
Oh, nice. Okay, so guys, I'm not exactly sure. Am I whispering or can y'all hear me fine? I'm talking to the chat right now. Can you hear other people as well, but it's just whispers? Because I literally haven't changed anything on my side.
Same here. I'm gonna mute my mic. I can listen to the YouTube for a second. I want to hear what it sounds like.
Okay, is that better? What about other people? Can you hear them? Like, you see their names lighting up when they talk. Do you hear them? I literally didn't change anything. This is insane. How did I get that? How can they be whispers? That makes zero sense. Oh, is this?
The only
Must
thing
have
I,
been the pizza.
the only thing I would say we could do is end the stream and restart it. Maybe I don't know.
All right, guys. Let's. I want to see if what I did just now changed. So everyone kind of, or just someone else talk.
Hello,
Talk
testing.
Audio.
Testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay,
There you
everything
go.
fixed.
It just came through.
Okay, so let me turn
Someone
this
wrote
on.
fixed in the chat. Someone wrote fixed in the chat, so I think we're good. And then good there. I think you fixed it. Now y'all are good, it says.
Perfect. Okay, so sorry guys. I do not know how that possibly, like, all I literally did was go into the settings and press OK, and then in my sound, for some reason my sound was set up through through my TV, through my monitor and not my headphones. So it like switched it. But how does that even make sense? How can I hear you and it's set to my I don't know. Anyway, so sorry about that, guys. We'll move back on to our last. He's new here. Joe Hill. He's here to kind of pull up his own chair to the table and share some of his pieces with everyone about this topic of destruction. Now it's going to be a fun one because we're going to get to talk about a lot of kind of speculation, but also a lot of stuff that's backed by scripture and apocryphal books. So definitely going to get into those bits too, and then. Kind of a little teaser to our next episode, which will obviously lead into the flood and what that did for us. So, that being case, go ahead and say hello to everyone, Joe, and then we'll go from there.
Hello, everyone. And by the way, the chat's saying your volume's too low now, Vader. You probably turned it down. My name's Joe Hill, and my channel is on YouTube is Effed Up World, and I've just noticed a lot happening since like 5 years ago or whatever. I started to see the truth, and you guys know what I'm talking about. The enclosed cosmology is true, and other than that, I don't really have any exciting parts to really nothing important. I'm a carpenter. I swing a hammer and play with wood all day, woodworking and whatever. So that's about it. But I met Anthony probably 2 years ago, or a year and a half, or 2 years ago.
It's been about 4
And
years, brother.
has it been that long?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a minute. Yeah, you're right. You've been on my channel quite a few times, haven't you? I think, yeah. So yeah, I'm terrible at timing on things, but yeah. So what interests me is the prophets and the visions that they were shown of the things that would be happening at the end, and I'm seeing those things happening in this world and also in the world above ours, in the sky. So, yeah, thank you guys for inviting me to come and chat. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of to what you were saying before is I kind of had a quick question for you. So, being that you've worked with wood for most of your life, have you ever sat down and thought about the connection between the son Yeshua working wood and why like the father had him in that situation as opposed to whatever? Have you ever thought about that?
I have thought about it, but I guess nothing really too significant comes up except that it's to I guess it's creating things, working, making things out of wood, and it's not only woodworking. I mean, people make things out of everything, out of you know what I mean. But the creation or construction part of building things, I think, is the probably what I notice about that. But that's just my thoughts, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I was just wondering. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool thought. Yeah, awesome. Well, definitely thank you for coming and joining us, and we'll have to get your information so I can add it to the description so people can go check out your
Cool.
stuff as well. So, anyway, so let's get into the topic, guys. I am just super excited to talk about this because I think of a lot of the stuff that we're seeing nowadays, as you were mentioning before, is just like an echo or shadow, a resurgence of a certain like behavioral style, like a choice of how you act and your, I guess, morality, your morals and ethics, and the type of stuff they were doing. So yeah, you got any initial thoughts to that, Anthony? What we're going to be talking today?
Well, yeah, but maybe a little later on in the show. But just kind of wanted to share with everybody a little about the way Joe and I met. I'm real good friends with this character named Paul on the Plane, and I was listening to one of his shows. He used to be on TFR, and I was listening to one of his TFR shows, and he had this guy on called F'd Up World, and he was talking about space and this and that. And I tuned into that show, and I'm like, this dude knows this stuff. I have got to contact him. So I texted Paul. I called him, and I said, look, man, I have got to get this guy's information. I have got to talk with him. He knows something that I've been knowing for a long time, and he was just putting it into perspective. And come to find out, he and I was already Facebook friends, so we got to talking. From there,
That's funny.
Wow, this is pretty cool, you know. But anyway, that's where I met Joe Hill, and he and I have been friends ever since.
If you remember, Anthony, when we did meet, it wasn't very long before that you had a vision of something, and so that's what I think of when you say Paul on the Plane and back in that time, you know.
Right. I had that vision, and like a day or maybe 2 days later or something like that is when I heard Joe Hill on Paul's show that night or that evening or whatever, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk with this guy.
Well, maybe that's a good place to, or a good thing to actually mention. I mean, I'm not saying we know everything about it or something, but in your dream or in your vision, you described something that I think it talks about in the Bible: darkness consuming, like coming down from the sky, like it's. But you were saying that it's fire, but I don't know if you want to go. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but.
I mean, we could talk about it. There's still a lot I need to learn about that particular vision.
Yeah, we all have a lot to learn. That's for sure.
Oh, that's the whole point, is sharing those puzzle pieces so that we can, like, get the whole picture ourselves. So, yeah. So I guess let's get started where it kind of where things start going south. Like, obviously we already talked about, all the stuff with the first man and woman, and kind of the repercussions of that. But then we're getting into here where we start off in Genesis 6. I'll go ahead
Oh
and
boy,
pull that up.
this is a good one then. Genesis 6. That creates a whole big story, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's a to me it's also an echo, a shadow of kind of the things that we're doing today. We're doing with less. I don't even want to say it like artists. Like there's less in it than we used to have. Like I've even like our computers, I feel like are crude, like recreations of like what their type of technology was.
Can agree with that. I think you're right.
Yeah,
I
it's.
think that.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I think that I don't know if it's just a natural thing, but when we do make something, I mean, and especially through our whole lives, we've had major technology advance, like on every level. You know, just personal things at home, the way we do everything, has changed and a lot in our lifetimes. I think it's just amazing to think that this time hasn't been like this before, like before the flood. But that's because I think that was the same kind of wickedness going on.
Well, I think it was a very similar wickedness, but I think like to me, like I don't think that they needed wires and circuits. Like I think their
Yeah, like they
technology
would do it
was,
a whole different way.
oh yeah, like they were tapping into vibration and frequencies and uh
Mhm.
stealing or farming, electrical like static in the air to use for whatever reason. So yeah, I think it was super sophisticated. So I'm gonna pull this up real
Do you
quick and share the screen.
do you think they had special abilities? Like,
So
I don't know if you guys seen the TV show Fringe. Some of the children in that show that became adults had special abilities. Do you think the Nephilim, the giants, the offspring of the angels, had special abilities?
so when you say special
And they're trying to
abilities,
mimic that today
so
with merging with AI.
so I think special abilities doesn't necessarily need to be like they could literally create lightning from their body. What I have noticed about most magicians, sorcerers, is they're actually using the material to like the material rules, like for instance, like sleight of hand, right? They use something that they know, which is that the hands can be faster than the eyes, right? Like your eyes can only see so fast. So you can do things where people can't see them, but it's a form of deception. And I think that they also did that, like, we'll kind of get onto this later from my personal opinion, but like what people label as Tataria, I believe that that's Nimrod's era, and he learned from the people of this time before the flood from various locations or means. That being said, I'm sharing Genesis 6 here real quick, so I want to go ahead and just like read that through really quick. I know I do the King James Version. I know things are grabble, guys, but I personally just like this language. I would suggest that you read along too. Bring it up on your phone or wherever your Bible and read it, in the language you like. So,
Right up there, right?
yeah,
Before,
absolutely.
like when you get done with that Genesis 6, would you like me to read Genesis 6 from the Targum as well?
Yeah, you can absolutely do that if you'd love to.
It's not too terribly long. Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, sweet.
It's not,
All right, so I'll just go ahead and get started. And it came to pass when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of man that they were fair, and they took them wives, all of which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man, for he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. So something interesting, obviously, other than the whole thing, real quick, is this: they became mighty men. So we'll get into this when we talk about the Tower of Babel, but um, Nimrod became this mighty man. And then it says, And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of thought of their heart was only evil continually. And he repented the Lord that he had made the man on earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and creepy thing, and the fowl of the air, for it repenteth me that I had made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a man perfect in his generation, and Noah walked with God. Just a quick little note is I think it's obviously interesting that he's saying Noah was a just man, so we know he was just. He was perfect in his generations, and he walked with God. So a lot of people say, I feel like in dispensationalism, they say, well, when it's saying he's perfect in his generations, it means he was like among all the different people in the time, like he was the only one who was perfect, whatever that means, because to a lot of people, Torah doesn't exist here yet, but we can definitely get into that another time. And then it says, and Noah begot three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupt before Yah, and the earth was filled with violence. And Yah looked up upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And Yah said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and pitch it within and without it with pinch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it. The length of the ark shall be. Okay, so I'm not going to get into all of the description of the ark, but all those that are probably here, or obviously I said, I would suggest you go read it for yourself. So when it goes into all that. That's useful information, but for this topic, I want to also point out a couple things. So this right here, the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. Now, now that I got that read, I just want to kind of say, to me, these things that are going on here, where it's saying that, like obviously, we'll look more about this going into Enoch, and then, but this right here, and Yah saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and every imagination of thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Like, that's a pretty insane statement, and I wonder how it would be possible for any human being to get to a point where they only had evil in their heart continually. Now, maybe that's possible. I haven't experienced it, so like for as much as I can say, like it doesn't seem like I've experienced someone who's like that. That being said, go ahead and read have any comments or whatever, and then you can read it from the Targum, Anthony.
I
Can
do
I
have a
say
quick
something?
comment.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead,
I have.
Frankie B.
Uh, I want to point out the mighty men and the men of and which were of old men of renown.
Mm-hmm.
I think that mighty men is something we really need to dig into because they're not just mere men. I really think they're getting the X-Men and all these superheroes and all this stuff that Hollywood's coming out with from the offspring of the angels,
Oh, absolutely.
that they had some type of ability, and they're trying to get back to that with merging AI
Well, no,
Yeah,
and
yep,
I'm not.
and
you're right.
opening up consciousness and going into all that realm of witchcraft and go
I
ahead,
really
Joe.
think that space exploration has a lot to do with that. A
Well,
lot to do with these mighty men. And but I was going to comment just really quick about something that Vader Bear was saying. The continual evil in men's hearts or whatever.
mm-hmm.
If we were misunderstood about what wickedness was, just as a generation, it would be pretty easy, I think, for our hearts to be thinking wicked thoughts and not think that they're wicked.
Mm-hmm.
If we were born into it.
Well, so I feel like that's on one side. To me, when we're talking about these specific people, like you, I don't know if it's
I,
possible with these type of with like current type of people, but I believe that these people, like he was kind of saying, were where we get our superheroes from. And I totally agree. Like Thor, boom, right there. There's like Thor is literally the son of Odin. Odin is another name for Nimrod. So if you go
well,
back and
well,
you
well.
look at all these different cultures that stemmed in those different areas, and obviously nowadays this is the remnants of the people after the Tower of Babel. Like we're in the age of Babel being confused, and then all these people now speaking different languages and moving back to their home countries. And now we've built up from there. That's at least how I view it. So that being the
Well, can
case,
I?
yeah, absolutely.
Uh, they were so mighty that they compared themselves with Yah. So they must have had some type of abilities that the angel seed had given them. For Nimrod to declare himself Yah on earth and build a tower to reach into the heavens to confront Yah, he must have really thought himself something that he was great. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
with special
obviously
abilities. With,
well, yeah, and I completely agree with you, but see, I don't think it's like like necessarily magical. So that's why I brought up like a magician. Like magicians will use contraptions in order to trick your brain, your mind into not understanding what was happening and you were just being deceived. So I think
Kind of like
easily the accounts of like electricity and fire and all of those things could
fire
easily,
coming down from the sky,
yeah,
right?
well, like some things, like I think there are some actual, supernatural things that happen. Those are things that are from the Father and obviously through the Son. But I think there's a
Yeah,
ability to tap into whatever that is and use it for evil. So I don't know,
well, they say that the Antichrist is going to do signs and wonders, and the small
but
prophet.
lying signs and wonders.
But they're
Right, right.
Like
miracles. It says
it's
that
So
a
they're
you're saying
miracles.
he's going to use magic,
Yeah, he's going to use magic by the power of
right?
Satan,
and I'm not
because Satan
saying,
does have power.
I definitely think that there is quote unquote magical power, right? But what I'm saying is I'm saying, like, okay, for instance, when you pray for someone, right? Like you're tapping into that healing power through the Father. But when you're tapping into that through not the Father, through your own means, that's like what sorcery is, right? Because like all of us, can't we have times in our life where even where we were doing the wrong thing, that the Father still had grace with us, had the ability to still like pardon us from those things, or have grace or mercy upon us for those things. But these people that he's talking about here in Genesis 6 are people that literally can't be saved. Only one person but Noah, right? So this one person, and it doesn't say but Noah and his family found grace, right? It could, I could see how it's saying Noah, meaning his estate, like who he is and his children is all included. But I could,
Trinity.
I
Well,
think.
wait. Before we get too far ahead on that
Oh,
particular thing,
yeah, I know. We could rabbit trail all day with this subject.
I'd like to kind of present a little bit of my thoughts on what uh uh what he was saying about the like the X-Men type stuff.
Hmm.
We as humans, we have the ability to do these certain things by the power of Yahuwah, by the power of God, by the power of Jesus, or however you want to call him, but we actually have this manifested in us. We just have to know it. We have to have enough faith that when we say something into existence, we just have to know it's going to exist. For example, if we say, okay, you are going to be healed, we just have to know that this person is going to be healed. We have to know it. And yeah, as far as like superpowers, lightning shooting from your fingertips and all that stuff, I don't know about that. But as far as having superpowers, as far as healing and blessing people, I literally think that we have that within us, and we always have, as the pure blood of Yeshua.
Yeah.
Here's something to think about too is if we're talking about like wizardry or magic or like using technology basically or things that we've learned um, to do like amazing things that seem impossible or whatever. And if you look at, I mean, look at our communication that we're having right now. We all live in different areas and we're all talking all at the same time. That seems like amazing to me. And if you look at like your cell phone, it's the same thing. You can call someone on the other side of the world, and you're actually communicating with a person through this little teeny device in your hand. 50 years ago, that would have seemed like magic.
But see
And
what I'm
Absolutely.
well,
Well, you got to look at like George Lucas spoke about the Sith and the Jedi, and the Sith were tapping into a dark spiritual power, and the Jedi were using the power to say of Yah. They were using the power of the light. So if you look at it on that correlation, there is a power that is available in this realm. It's just the way you tap. We have to learn how to tap into it through the scriptures, through faith, through clean living, fasting, and praying. And Yeshua is our example of that.
yeah.
He fasted for 40 days when he was tempted by the Shaitan in the wilderness, by Satan in the wilderness, and he defeated him. And after that, he was endowed with power to do all types of miracles.
But
I really think it comes down to fasting and clean living and tapping in to the realm and the powers of the spirit, aka the ether. And Yeshua was a perfect example of that.
I wouldn't necessarily say exactly. I wouldn't say that it's the ether, but I would say that it is the power that Yah created us with. And as
Well,
far as
if you know, our heart is magnetic, and we're connected to this realm so deeply, deeper than any of us know. Yeshua knew the connection that he had with the Father and with this realm.
yes, and
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and Joe was just tapping into that too. As far as our communication, we're on this little device talking with each other, but we can literally talk with each other through our minds and through our hearts and through our soul. We can literally do that. It's they call it telepathy, but I don't believe in telepathy. But
No, it's like if you think of somebody, and the next thing you know, you're out shopping and you see that person. You know what I mean?
I had actually kind of a weird situation. So the other day, they went to the, like, when my niece got here into town, they went to the aviary where they had all the birds, and they talked about seeing an owl. And I literally thought to myself, I've never seen an owl in person. Like, I've seen one at places, but never in nature. And no joking, the other day I got out of my car and this huge white owl flew right over me. Like, I got out of my car and it flew right over me, and I was just like, whoa, I just thought about never seeing a real owl. And it happened. So yeah, I totally think there's
Yeah, you made it
supernatural
happen.
things that happen. I think what they do, the people that were destroyed, is they used material ways in order to subvert people. So, like, for
Well, there's
instance,
a whole
when we
thing
get
called
into,
alchemy too.
well, yeah, and that's a physical thing that they're physically
Right, and
doing
that's
with
the
this
whole
earth.
thing with potions and metals and sorcery and science. That that's like a whole thing that we don't even, as this civil, we don't even really know about. It's like a hidden secret that probably only the elites know about. You know what I mean?
oh, we know about it. They just
Well, we
been
know about it, but we don't really know the full depth and the all the intricacies behind it. We don't
right.
know the full. We don't know
That's
how to use it.
been we've been indoctrinated to disbelieve it our whole
Right.
life. But we definitely have that power within us. All we have to just do is accept it. We have the power to do the things that Yeshua did and greater things.
Yeah, I really think we have to look at the way he lived and his example to get to that power. Walking in the full length of the Torah is probably the foundation, and then prayer and fasting and just connecting with with this realm we live on.
Absolutely, and not to, because again, it's easy to get into rabbit trails, like from the discussion. So no worries there. No worries there. But did you want to go ahead and read from the Targum, Anthony? And then after that, I want to like let him read that, and then I'm gonna read Enoch, and then I want to discuss like what we had just read in those two.
Okay.
Before we go on, I was gonna say wanted to add something. A lot of people don't think that the angels had sex with women. My brother, for one, we argue about it. But my contention is, why would it mention the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were fair? I mean, that's been going on forever. I don't think it would even had to been mentioned if it wasn't angels, because they'd already been thinking they were fair, the earth multiplied and everything like that. So I think this was the first time that had happened. But it also says that all flesh was corrupted. And if we get to the end times where it says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the end. So I think that they were doing all kinds of experiments, and that's where we get half-breed animals, men, and stories from way back.
100%. The what was
Oh, Mother
going
Al,
on in the
right?
times of Noah was way worse than the times of Jared. So the Watchers, they came down in the days of Jared, but he uses Yeshua uses the the qualifier of the days of Noah. So obviously the time between those two events, things were getting exponentially worse. And then that kind of shows. So before we get too far, go ahead and read from the Targum, Anthony, and then we'll get into Enoch 9. You there, brother?
Yeah, 1 second. What?
Sorry. Yeah, you're cutting out pretty hard
I
too.
had to step away for just a second.
You're breaking up, Anthony.
Did you
Yeah.
stop in Genesis 6?
Okay, there you go.
Okay, where did you stop in Genesis 6? Did you stop
Uh,
whenever?
I pretty much stopped when it starts talking about the ark.
Okay, all right. That's just what I was thinking.
Genesis like 13.
Okay, well, mine's not numbered, but I know where to stop. Anyway,
Okay.
Genesis 6. This is the Aramaic and Palestinian Targum. It says, and it was when the sons of men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and fair daughters were born. Sorry. Fair daughters were born to them, and the sons of the great saw the daughters. Yeah, sons of the great saw the daughters of men were beautiful and painted and curled, walking with revelation of the flesh and with imaginations of wickedness, that they took them wives of all who pleased them. And the Lord said by his word, all the generations of the wicked which are to arise shall not be purged after the order of the judgment of the generation of the deluge, which shall be destroyed and exterminated from the midst of the world. Have I not impaired my Holy Spirit to them, or placed my Holy Spirit in them? That's in parentheses. That they may work good works. And behold, their works are wicked. Behold, I will give them a prolongment of 120 years, that they may work repentance and not perish. The Jerusalem says, and the word of the Lord said, the generations which are to arise shall not be judged after the manner of the generation of the deluge, which is to be destroyed and exterminated and finally blotted out. I have not impaired my spirit to the sons of men, because they are flesh, that they may work good works, but they do works of evil. Behold, I have given them a prolongment of 120 years, that they may work repentance, but they have not done it. This is back to the original, whatever, Shemkazai and Uzziel, who fell from heaven, were on earth in those days. And also, after the sons of the great had gone in with the daughters of men, they bare to them. And these are they who called men who are of the world, men of names. And the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and all the imagery of the thought of his heart was only evil every day. And it repented the Lord in his word that made he made man upon the earth, and he passed judgment upon them by his word. Not going to reread that. These are the genealogies of the race of Noah. Noah was a just man, complete in good works in his generation. And in the fear of the Lord walked Noah, and Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Cham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupted through the inhabitants thereof, who had declined from the ways of the righteousness before the Lord. And the earth was filled with rapine. He was a just man, complete in good works in his generation. And I'll stop there because it's going to get into the ark.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, that actually kind of paints a different picture than I guess like English Bible does for me. I'd love to like maybe look into some of the words like deeper. Like so yours was saying great. So like see where that word, you know what I mean? Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
totally. That's awesome.
I would say that it does paint a little different picture, although it's saying pretty much the same thing. Uh, the great, for example, it's actually capitalized in this particular word. The word great is capitalized, meaning it's a pronoun or a figure of like a name or something.
like a title.
Yeah, like a title or something along those lines. Now, if let's just say that we walk to town or go to town or something, and we see somebody that's doing some sort of a magical thing, they can do these magic. For example, the Avengers or X-Men, they have these superpowers and stuff like that. If we see somebody like that, without knowing about Scripture, without knowing about the Nephilim and all this other nonsense, if we was just to see that for the first time in our life, never knowing anything about it, we would call them great. That's a great person. They can do great works, right? So I can kind of see where that title might come from, where they're manifesting
Oh,
these
yeah,
great,
totally.
and they would be called great,
Yeah, no,
like
I totally get what you're saying.
the wizard. Uh, I can't even think of his name now. Who was it in the Sword and the Stone? Who was
Oh,
the wizard?
Merlin.
Merlin. Yeah, Merlin. Merlin's gone down in history as being great. But
Funny enough, my grandfather's name was Merlin, but that's kind of off topic.
well, we won't hold it against him. But yeah, he was somebody that knew about the powers of the Nephilim, and I'm thinking post flood because it's in King Arthur's days and stuff like that. But it's something he knew how to do something for people to call him great because he was the great Merlin, the great wizard.
For sure.
Um,
For sure. I just who knows how much of Merlin was, like all of it. Like the thing is we don't know. Like, was he a wizard? Because see, that's like my thing. If he was able to, for instance, cast a fireball, then I could see that there would be a form of false miracle. Like I think Yeshua really walked on water. How they would do it is they would put a clear glass tower out there and walk on the like ledge that they created to imitate it, but they couldn't actually do that type of stuff. Now I think that they could do stuff to us that would be magical, and that's how they created what we call monoliths today, like the pyramids and the temples and all that jazz. But I think that it kind of goes into that. And let's continue this conversation. I want to get through some of this though. So this is
Well,
Enoch. This is
wait,
Enoch 9.
wait
Let
a
me
minute.
go ahead.
I was actually saying that just kind of set up something that Joe has to present as well, but we can come back to it. We can read the Enoch thing if you like, and I'm kind of saying what I was saying about Merlin, just to kind of set Joe up for something
I think we should read Enoch 9 because it'll give a much better idea of
What
kind
was
of
going on in Genesis
yeah,
6?
great
yeah.
idea, great idea.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this is Enoch chapter 9, and it says, "And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from the heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all the lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, The earth made without inhabitants cries the voice of their crying up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, Bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, Kings of kings, and God of the ages, and thy throne glory standeth unto all generations of the ages, and thy name holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou. And all things are naked upon in thy sight, and thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. Thou seest what Azazel hath done, who taught all unrighteousness on the earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Samazel, to whom hast given authority to bear over his associates, and they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and slept with women, and defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women bore great giants, and the earth was thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now, behold, the souls of those who have died and are crying and making their suit to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended, and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on the earth. And thou knowest all things before they come to pass, and thou seest these things, and thou dost suffer them. And thou dost not say to us what we are to do to them in regard to these. So that being said, it's like, oh my gosh, this whole part where we're talking about um, who taught all unrighteousness. This right here is behavior that's contrary to the Father. So I'll give you an example. So we brought up wood earlier. Well, you need sharp instruments and tools in order to work wood. Even if you take it to the base level, you need something like a chisel, which is a sharpened tool. Like you could hurt people with that. So whereas, and we can get into this a little bit into Enoch, but when they get when it breaks it into detail of what they're being taught, and they're making blades. Well, you can make a blade to carve out wood or to create a house or to do all these things that are good things, but then they were taught in a way that was unrighteousness. So that their behavior is contrary to the Father, whereas He would have you make blades. In an example where He would have you make blades to create. They're teaching them as a way to hurt others, and we have all this blood and unrighteousness happening because of these giants, and the whole earth was filled with that. And it's very interesting that we have this part where they're crying out and making their suit, like saying like look at what type of situation happened to us. Like how can you, like to the Father, like how can you be mad at us when look at this world you have, right? And so like they're crying out trying to get this all finished. And we'll obviously go
Well,
into more, but any comments about that?
it
I have
sounds
a.
like
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
it sounds like they're like an apex predator, like a superhuman race of giants, and they were just causing destruction, and they were, murdering and killing and breaking every commandment of Yah.
Hey, Frankie, right quick. Sorry to interrupt, brother. Do you consider giants as just like really tall people, really big people, whatever? Or do you just?
I think these are beyond giants. I think they're more of a superhuman race of giants, like with super abilities, with superpowers, with skill, with super intelligence. Because you're mixed with a heavenly being, so they have to be more than what our description of them, what the vague description we have of them.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Consider something like fairies and gnomes and stuff as a consider
more like X-Men or some type of human, like superhuman race.
Well, have you guys heard of Greek gods? That's
what
you're talking. That is
like,
what they are.
Yeah.
Apollo was a Greek god, and what I believe that is one of those Nephilim giants or whatever that people on the world, like human beings on the world, were basically underneath these giants in every way. I mean, they were at their mercy,
I kind
Hey
of.
Joe, do you remember the Star Trek episode with Apollos and all the Greek gods where they had these superpowers, and this little midget, they were like making him do like evil things to Kirk and Spock and all them.
Oh,
and
really?
then Kirk tapped into the power and started fighting these Apollyon gods.
Kirk.
You remember that, Vader? It was in the original series.
No, I was never a big fan of Star Trek, to be honest.
So Enoch chapter 65 might give us a little information, if you don't mind if I read a little bit of that. It's a fragment of the book of Noah, I believe, or maybe it's right before that, but it's chapter 65. And in the first verse it says, in those days Noah saw the earth that it had sunk down, and its destruction was nigh. And he arose from thence and went to the ends of the earth and cried aloud to his grandfather Enoch. And Noah said 3 times. So he gets a hold of Enoch somehow, and Enoch is going to tell him about the flood. And let's see here. Enoch asked him, "Why are you crying and weeping?" In verse 6, he says, "And a command has gone forth from the presence of the Lord concerning those who dwell on the earth, that their ruin is accomplished, because they have learned all the secrets of the angels, and all the violence of the Satans, and all their powers, the most secret ones, and all the power of those who practice sorcery, and the power of witchcraft, and the power of those who make molten images for the whole earth. And how silver is produced from the dust of the earth, and how soft metal originates in the earth. For lead and tin are not produced from the earth like the first. It is a fountain that produces them, and an angel stands therein, and that angel is preeminent. And after that my grandfather Enoch took hold of me by my hand and raised me up, and said unto me, Go, for I have asked the Lord of spirits as touching this commotion on the earth. And he said unto me, Because of their unrighteousness, their judgment has been determined upon, and shall not be withheld by me forever. Because of the sorceries which they have searched out and learned, the earth and those who dwell upon it shall be destroyed. And these, they have no place of repentance forever. And I think this is what it's talking about, these giants or whatever. It says, and these, they have no place of repentance forever, because they have shown them what was hidden, and they are damned. But as for thee, my son, the Lord of spirits knows that thou art pure and guiltless of this reproach concerning the secrets. So that's actually, there's one more verse. I'll just read it because it's there. And he destined thy name to be among the holy, and will preserve thee amongst those who dwell on the earth, and has destined thy righteous seed both for kingship and for great honors. And from thy seed shall produce the fountain of righteous and holy without number forever. I thought that would maybe add a little bit that these angels, and obviously their offspring, also they were teaching all the men. They were teaching them all these secrets, and somewhere it even says that these secrets aren't even worth anything. but the angels thought they were great
Yeah,
secrets of heaven.
I
And
think it refers to them as worthless ones.
yeah, it does worthless. So even though all these, I think myself, and I think this is where Anthony was talking about, uh, is these, or maybe not. I don't know. Anthony, what were you gonna say about earlier when you before we read Enoch? I forgot.
Um, I, I was
You're breaking up
I
on
was
us, buddy.
talking about the great. Their title is great. Oh man. And,
Heard you for a second.
Yeah, you were
Hey,
clear
hey
for a
Joe.
second.
you have to give me a second. I'm sorry.
You sound good
Hey
now.
Joe.
Yeah,
Hey Joe.
All right.
yeah.
Do you think that the Nephilim, the offspring, were killing off the regular men and trying to create their own race, and this is why Yah sent the flood? Could that be a theory?
It actually
That
says
could be a
that
theory.
it actually says in a part of Enoch, it says, and when men could no longer sustain them, they turned against men
They turned on them.
and started devouring them.
Oh, they started eating them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were eating them,
devouring.
and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there was like that. I think that's that. If you think about it, I mean, that makes sense that the angels they saw this wickedness, and they were killing men. Probably kick them across
Right,
the field or something if they didn't do whatever they said or whatever. And the men
right.
couldn't feed them and keep up with all their needs, and so they started just eating the men. And I think the angels were like, "No, that's it. We need to do something about this." Like that's that cry, I think. But I don't know. That's just the theory, also.
Do you think it was
That's
the
a
Elohim crying? I mean, the angels crying out to God, to Yah, for justice?
And probably the souls of dead men too.
All right. Yeah.
yep. Hey, can y'all hear me now? Am I coming in pretty clear?
Yes,
Yeah. From
a
another thing
little.
I understand too, Noah never left the mountain of Yah, where all the rest went down into the lower parts of the earth, and Noah remained at the top. Noah and Enoch, they remained close to the garden. I think it's in the book of Adam and Eve where the cave was,
Okay,
and
the cave of treasures.
they were like separated from the rest of Cain's descendants. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I might have heard that before, but I don't know like where I've read that or whatever, but I can't remember.
Well,
But I've heard that
there was actually
in the book,
Enoch's
in the
descendants
Adam of Eve.
were watching Cain's descendants partying and drinking, and they called out to them,
Oh,
and they
and they were
actually
watching them
left.
down the mountain. They were down at the bottom
Yeah,
of the
they
mountain
actually
doing that.
left the place of protection and went and joined in with
Okay,
Cain's with all the debauchery
now
that
I
was going.
now I do remember reading that. I guess that's
That was the
and
book of
that
Adam and Eve.
is yeah, that's in the book of Adam and Eve, isn't it? Then what a crazy
Yes.
book! I love that book.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
wild book. Yes.
that book actually gave me an understanding of what it meant when the prophets in the Bible wrote, "The word of the Lord appeared to me," or "The word of the Lord came to me," and
Yeah, that was
I never,
Yeshua.
yeah, I didn't know
I
that
got
until I read that
that
book,
Yah sent his word. That was
and
Yeshua. He
the
literally
Son
said
of
Yeshua
Man
to
showed
them,
up.
right?
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and that's how I learned
Yeah.
that from that book. So every time I read that or hear about that book, that's what I think of. He is the Word, and He's
Yeah, he
real.
is. He sent his word, and it was Yeshua. Yeah, I got
So
that too when I was reading that.
when I was reading the Bible, and like up until I had read reading the Bible, and the Ezekiel would say, "The word of the Lord came to me and said," and I'd be thinking that that's the Holy Spirit teaching him something somehow in some way, but no, it was actually Jesus showed up.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
right quick, before we get into Ezekiel, now that I got a little service,
There
um,
you go.
I wanted to kind of hashtag the great. Um, do you think that after the flood and in like this great wizard's time, Merlin, do you think possibly he was able to get in touch with, say, something like the spirits of the Nephilim, or
Can you wait like five minutes for that question? Because I'm gonna read two more things from Enoch. Not this one, but the next one is exactly what you're talking about. But go ahead and I guess go ahead and finish your question. But let's get to an answer in just a little bit to that.
yeah, the only thing is it was it possible that somebody like Merlin went to space and got in touch with the deity Mars or the deity Jupiter or something along those lines, or was it possible that he went to Antarctica and found where all the spirits are dwelling?
Well, I don't
And
particularly know much about Merlin himself in that mythology. Like I know the general story.
well, I'm just saying the great. Okay, we don't have to use Merlin. Maybe like Thor, or maybe some other great person throughout our historical timeline
Well,
there.
so I see, okay, so this is how I see it. I see that I'm not saying there wasn't something different about them. I definitely think that, but I also think that with the pure, like, okay, so I'm actually gonna read this right now because it kind of goes to what I'm saying, and oh, this. Okay, yeah. There's it talks about it more, I think, in 63. But this gives us a little more illustration of what we're dealing with. So it says, and all the others together with him took unto them wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go into them and defile themselves with them, and they taught them charms and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants, and they became pregnant, and they bare great giants whose heights was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men, and when men could no longer sustain them, they turned against them and devoured mankind, and they began to sin against the birds and the beasts and the reptiles and the fish, and devour another one's flesh, and drink the blood. Then the earth laid acquisition against the lawless ones. So the reason why I wanted to bring that up, as you were bringing up a little bit ago as well, Joe, is that they were teaching them things. So I think it's very interesting that they were taught charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots and made them acquainted with plants, and then it directly goes into them having they're able to bear great giants. So it was something about what they were doing here that allowed them to become pregnant and to bear these great giants. So it gives us obviously that they started eating them, but then it goes into the birds and the beasts and the reptiles and the fish, and so they started messing with all the types of different things on the earth. And I think that they were doing those things not through like they were manipulating and corrupting things. They were taking things that already existed and making things that were not after their kind, and making and then teaching them things like creating swords and breastplates and armor and all that stuff, and uh and
So
Rocket
so
Vader.
technology.
So Vader.
yeah, so to me it's a physical thing, but so this is where I'll let me just finish this part right here. I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'll kind of give you my whole idea, and then you can kind of obviously give me your differences. So here it says, and then God said, then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One spake, and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, Go to Noah, tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole world will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and it will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all generations of the world. And the Lord said to Raphael, Bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert which is in the Dedel, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged stones, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see the light. And all the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire, and heal the earth which the angels had corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and all the children of men may not perish through all the secret things that the watchers had disclosed and taught their sons. And the whole earth had been corrupted through the works of that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribed all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication. Destroy the children of fornication and the children of the watchers from amongst the men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against another, that they may destroy each other in battle, for the length of days shall they not have. And no request that they their fathers make on thy behalf shall be granted unto their fathers on thy behalf, for they hope to live an eternal life, and each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said unto Michael, go, bind Zamazel and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with all the uncleanness. And when the sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, to the day of their judgment, and on their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to torment and prison, in which they shall be confined forever. And whoever shall be condemned and destroyed will there henceforth be bound together with him to the end of all generations. And destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end. And let the plant of righteousness and truth appear, and it shall prove a blessing, that for works of righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth and joy. And then they shall shall all the righteous escape, and they shall live till they beget thousands of children, and all the days of their youth and their old age shall shall they complete in peace. And then shall the whole earth be tilled in righteousness, and shall be all planted with trees and beautiful, full of blessings, and all desirable trees shall be planted on it, and they shall plant vines on it, and the vines that which they plant thereon shall yield wine in abundance. As for all the seed which is sown there, hence each measure of it shall bear 1,000, and a measure, oh my gosh, there's so much, and each measure of olive shall yield 10 presses of oil. And clean through the earth of all oppression, and from all unrighteousness, and from all sin, and from all godlessness, and all of the uncleanliness that is wrought upon the earth, destroy it from off the earth. And the children of men became righteous, and all nations shall offer adoration and praise to me, and all shall worship me. And the earth shall be cleansed from all defilement, and from all sin, and from all punishment, and from all torment, and I will never again send them upon it from generation to generation and forever. So that last part, though it kind of doesn't really go directly in what we're talking about, but just this restoration that happens, I personally believe this is talking about not after Noah gets off, but the final consummation when all these things are put to rest. But to go up a little bit, I believe it's the very next chapter. One second, bear with me. Trying to remember what exactly when it is, but it basically talks about the fact that when the Watchers and the sons of the Watchers die, they become evil spirits, and they'll always be known as evil spirits. I think that's actually maybe before this.
Chapter 15.
Is it 15?
Yeah.
Um,
He talks about the spirits
Brian-
from heaven dwell in heaven, and the spirits who were made on the earth, talking about their offspring, would stay on the earth, and they would wander and roam without bodies, hungering and thirsting, but
15
and
exactly. Evil
they were
spirits
causing evil.
evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they were born of men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling. But as for the spirits of earth which were born upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. And the spirits of the giants afflict and oppress and destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. And they take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offenses. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. So that right there, now, so that part right there, when you're talking about it, so whatever mechanism that exists, that the watchers and their children exists in these disembodied spirits, I think that is where they dwell, that's where they draw their power from. Obviously, the other part saying, and from the holy watchers in their beginning and primal origin. So obviously there was something different, but I think that maybe our superheroes is kind of, again, like the technology, a crude version of what was actually happening, if that makes sense. But go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to try to make maybe a distinct separation that I've noticed in this between the giants or the Nephilim and the fallen angels that they came from. That in this chapter that you're looking at in Enoch chapter 15, it does say that the Holy Watchers, their beginning and primal origin, or no, that's talking about the evil spirits on earth. But the angels, it says, but you were formerly spiritual, living as for the spiritual ones of the heaven, in heaven. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Living the eternal life and immortal for all generations of the world, and he didn't appoint wives for them because their dwelling is in heaven.
Exactly.
Yeah, and now one thing, if you go to Enoch chapter 10, I think, and I'm going to go there too. There's something very important, I think, that is stated here that a lot of people might not be aware of, and it's talking about. Let's see, where should I start? I'll start in verse 8 in chapter 10 in the book of Enoch. Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, I'll read a few verses here. I think it's important.
Absolutely.
And the whole earth had been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication and the children of the watchers from amongst men. So he's saying to destroy them from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days they shall not have, and no request that their fathers make of thee shall be granted unto the fathers on their behalf. For they hope to live an eternal life, and that each of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said unto Michael, go bind Semyaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, to the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever. And whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from thenceforth be bound together with them to all the end of all generations. So one thing I've noticed about that is that they were buried, it says, in the valleys of the earth for 70 generations. And I think that some people have kind of done the math on that, and that would lead, like if we went about 70 generations from that time, it would be something like 1800 or 1900 or somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. I've heard people say, but I've also heard them say that they think that they've been released or something, but it says right here, in those days, so after the 70 generations, when that judgment is consummated, it says that there's a judgment that is forever and ever consummated. So after those 70 generations, it says, in those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and the torment and the prison, which they shall be confined forever. And so when I read that, it leads me to wonder where the abyss of fire is.
So,
And that is actually in chapter 18 of Enoch, and that's up in the sky somewhere.
oh yeah, it's or past the realm. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah, like at
outside the
the heaven
firmament.
and earth. I think it is the firmament, or I think it's in the
I,
firmament. But
oh really? So I think it could almost be like okay, so for instance, it is the Lord who sitteth upon the circle of the earth, but it says like our foundations has four corners. So like when he
yep,
creates the earth on the first time, right? Like that's all of the land. And then when he creates earth, he like draws a circle. It's a firmament like in it. So when he goes out, like I think that there could possibly not be only stuff like out, like maybe there's more earth. I don't know, obviously, but I think it also could be like
outer darkness.
where there's multiple layers. So it says like that
Yeah, it
that
describes,
paradise or the New Jerusalem is in the third layer. So
and you're right. You're right on to say that there. It's like beyond, and I don't know, like directionally how we describe that, but that's exactly what Enoch says. He says, this is in chapter 18. He says, and I saw a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire, and among them I saw columns of fire fall, which were beyond measure, like toward the height and towards the depth. And beyond that abyss, I saw a place which had no firmament of the heaven above, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. And there was no water upon it, and no birds, but it was a waste and horrible place. I saw there 7 stars, like great burning mountains. And to me, when I inquired regarding them, the angel said, this place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. And then it talks about the stars that didn't obey God. There was 7 of them, and they went on their own course, and so God bound them. And that's actually Jude verse 13 mentions that those wandering stars, and it says that they're bound, or they're reserved until judgment in the blackness of darkness. And I'm like, that's space or whatever. That's what I mean. That's where we would, if we were going to say space, like not the way that
yeah,
like
yeah, not a
astronauts are in it. Like,
vacuum, but there is like
yeah, it's
more.
dark waters, and I think it's
Well,
interesting that NASA even
And how,
is describing it as water
well, like for here's an
or a
example.
vacuum.
If we went, let's say, like I'm not saying there is one below us, but just because like all we can dig down is 8 miles, right? So
Yeah.
if all we can dig down is 8 miles, then what if we're hitting the top of the next firmament. You get what I mean?
Yeah,
Like where there could be, because when we look up, it's so dark, but there could totally be on top of that something else, like a whole
and
like
there is
another
that's
layer.
biblical.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So
biblical cosmology, right in the second verse in the Bible. That it talks about that darkness. It says there was darkness upon the face of the deep, which is an abyss. That's what that word "deep" it means. It's a deep sea abyss. So there's darkness upon the face of the abyss, and then the Spirit of God hovered or was moving upon the face of the waters. So heaven, his feet, and it says that in Psalm 18 too. It says he bowed the heavens and came down, and darkness was under his feet. So there's an end to that darkness, and God is above that, which is amazing to me
oh
because
yeah.
you know how NASA and everybody would describe, or Neil deGrasse Tyson would describe it as a ever expanding infinity. But how can infinity expand? That's dumb.
Yeah, no. And
doesn't
just
Enoch
like
talk about
zero and
seven heavens?
infinity completely are made up concepts. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Joe, doesn't Enoch talk about 7 heavens?
I'm not sure if Enoch does, but I know that the test or the apocalypse of Abraham and the vision of Isaiah, they both certainly talk about 7 heavens, or 7 firmaments or whatever, because he called the firmament heaven. So I think they're kind of interchangeable a little bit.
Well, we know Paul went to the 3rd heaven, whether in body or spirit. So
Or he knew a man did anyway.
yeah,
Um,
well,
I think he was talking about himself, but
yeah,
um,
that inject.
I'm just joking around.
so to kind of
That
kick it back, I'm gonna share real quick. So this is chapter 8, and it says, Azel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of anatomy, and the beautifying of eyelids, and all of costly stones, and of all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupted in all their ways. Samazel taught enchantments and root cuttings, Eremos the resolving of enchantments, Bakajel taught astrology, Kalakabel the constellation, Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds, Erical the signs of the earth, Shemael the signs of the sun, and Serial the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. So it's like I think when we read these things, right? Like okay, we think swords or like guns are so much better than swords, but it's like I don't know if that's necessarily true, because if they have higher technology, like maybe you couldn't just I don't know, but these bracelets, like, oh, bracelets are a horrible thing, or oh, ornaments are a horrible thing, or knowing about the use of anatomy, like the human body, like that's
I think
that's that's
it's
pretty creepy. But what my point is why these common things to us, they seem like they're nothing, but I think they're very more deeper into what we're talking about. This cutting of
I
roots
agree.
isn't just
Can I give an
potatoes.
example?
Yeah,
Can I give an
absolutely.
example? Um, if we think about, okay, I know I'm always talking about rockets and the significance that I see of those in the scriptures, in these visions. I think that this is something very significant because rockets are the only thing that fly up to the heavens. I mean, a jet, we all know, most of us have ridden on a jet. Jets fly in the air, you know. They don't try to go out of the world. They're not trying to leave the world. But a rocket, like the Saturn V, even by the time that they were building the Apollo rocket, and especially now, all of the technology to build a rocket is newer. I guess I would say not brand new, but to make the things that they're doing right now, they're 3D printing um, uh, engines for the Dragon capsules. They 3D print them out of special alloys and things. They're really making things possible by with carbon fibers and things like that. And I think that this is a focus of those fallen angels, because I believe that as we were reading in chapter, what was it, chapter 10 or 15, that the spirits of heaven, they dwell in heaven. So and I don't think that means like on God's throne. I think that means up in the sky. And so to me, making these alloys and all these things, this is something that is being taught to men, however that happens, but it's being taught to men how to use these metals and how to do all these things. And I guarantee you that trying to go up to heaven and to, what are you going to do up there? Catch a glimpse of God's throne? I don't understand what they're trying to do. That's wickedness, and that is described clearly, like in the book of Jasher, talking about the Tower of Babel. It describes three different kinds of wickedness that they had in their hearts, and all three of them wanted to ascend into heaven, and they just wanted to. One of them wanted to smite God and replace him or whatever, and the other ones wanted uh, to shoot arrows and spears at him and kill him, and the other ones, they wanted to put their own gods up there and serve them. And I'm thinking, like, that's what satellites are. That's the
Well,
whole idea of satellites, is it's serving other gods up in the sky, you know?
well, Joe, I wanted to kind of alliterate on something you had posted in chat earlier when we was talking about Merlin. Didn't you say that Elon was using Merlin engines or Merlin rockets to
Yeah,
get?
his, yep, the Falcon 9 rocket, and that, to me, this is to me, and I'm not trying to push my ideas off on someone or something, but in Revelation 13, the second beast that it describes, I do think that that is specifically that Falcon 9 rocket. And there's a lot of reasons why, but that's the only rocket that goes and delivers things into space and then comes back and lands on the Earth. And it uses fire to slow itself down. And if you think about that the in Revelation 13, he saw a beast coming up out of the earth and it was speaking like a dragon. Well, that's actually what the Falcon 9 rocket does, is it lifts the Dragon capsule to bring cargo to and from the space station. Well, I think this is all part of that story. But that Falcon 9 rocket, it's called Falcon 9 because it has 9 engines on it, and it's an engine that Elon Musk developed, and it is called the Merlin engine.
Yeah. So let's kind of put two and two together here. And this is just speculation. So could Merlin from the days of old, like in King Arthur's times, could Merlin had possibly had connection with the wandering star Mars? And is Elon like repeating what Merlin did back in the day?
Very, very possible and very likely. You know how Nimrod is kind of like the same as Apollo, if or Apollyon, I should say.
Well,
Right.
well,
Go
Apollyon and
ahead.
Apollo is there. So I kind of want to go into that a little bit. So,
Okay.
how we were talking about the other gods and stuff before. So all these other ancient religions from our time, right? Like if you go as far as we can tell, before basically the Tower of Babel, when all of a sudden everyone spoke different languages. If you go back to that time, I think your Greeks, your Hindus, your, for lack of a better word, Vikings, Nordics, all those type of people all had the same king. It was Apollo, it was Odin, it was Shiva, like all these exact same replicas of this polytheistical hierarchy of their gods. And so they're all super similar. So I think that our modern view of those beings is actually different. I don't know if we, like, I think it's more like Clash of the Clash of the Titans, where there was people, there was these quote unquote gods, and there were like insane type of, like griffins and like all these mixtured creatures, and you know lizards that shoot fire. Like, I think that's all that corruption that was going on. And so and so that being said, I think that all the stuff that we have now, what they tell us mythology is now, is actually all just different stories with human, creativity and culture and put it into that, saying the same story over and over. Those all point to Nimrod. But I think where Nimrod got his power from was through however he was able to conquer or take over all these different countries and create this place where all these people from all over the world came and were building this tower. And a quick little point, I don't get how people who believe in scriptures but then believe in the globe, how they don't see an issue with what Nimrod, how it's obvious that the Father had issues with what Nimrod was doing going up into the heavens, and what quote unquote NASA and SpaceX and all them supposedly do today. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So I think that whatever he did to gain that empire, he was also privy to the technology and things that was found left over by the Watchers and their children. Now, the Watchers and the children that had died could easily have gone to the men such as Nimrod and said, "Hey, go to this place and look here." And he goes to this place and he finds some information and some technology. And then they
Yeah, I
say
think
go to, you get what I'm saying? So it's like this build up.
however it's passed to them, it's generationally, however the but what I'm saying is like Elon Musk he created the Merlin engine, the Raptor engine. This is something that it's insanely different technology being used. Like he just made it up. However, made it up, but it's like the most powerful engine, So
Well,
I,
the names definitely do have something to do with it because they're
yeah, I think
channeling
so.
some type of power, some type of dark force, and they're
Or
giving
it's
all
channeling
these
them.
names.
Do you know what I mean?
Which,
And what I mean by that, I said it's channeling them, maybe, but
yeah,
I don't think Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or any of these guys, any of the astronauts that rode on the shuttle or whatever. I don't think any of those people have it in their hearts, or they don't understand that they are doing something wrong. And I
I,
guess an example would be Nixon. You remember he called the Apollo astronauts on the moon on the dial-up phone there.
which is
Um,
literally
Yeah, that
impossible.
really happened.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
uh,
he actually after that, when they were in their little quarantine trailer thing, um, he actually did a big thing with them, big TV thing with them or whatever, an interview while they were in the quarantine and talked with them about their mission to the moon. And then he had the chaplain or whatever come and pray. And this is Nixon, and it's the whole country's watching or the whole world or whatever. And Nixon's like, I thought it'd be appropriate that we had the chaplain come and pray. And then the chaplain comes and makes a long prayer to God about how thanking him for how they safely made it through the heavens, and that thank you for bringing our astronauts back safe. And like this whole thing to me is like a strong delusion to be thinking, because like you said, the Tower of Babel, don't people get an idea from and then that what that is, Lucifer, he says in his heart, I will ascend into heaven and place my throne above the stars of God. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds.
And and
Be like the
Lucifer
Most High.
is to me Nimrod because
And it's,
he
yeah,
well,
I think it's the same spirit or whatever we would want to call it. I'm sure there's many names throughout time, but that's why I was saying I think Apollo is very similar to Nimrod and is very similar, or I should say Apollyon. I don't know if they're the same,
no
but
it
Apollyon
to me
is the
from
angel of
my
the
understanding.
bottomless pit.
Yeah, no, exactly.
and,
Okay, and so wait, I want to reach on that a little bit, but that is a conversation I want to hear a little. So to me, I think when Revelation 9 happens, I think that those lotus are part of this stay manipulating mankind, because
I think so.
If you read Revelation 13, like how I imagine when the smoke is coming out, it says out of the smoke came the lotus, right? And then it describes
Locust, yeah.
what they are. But
Yep.
what my point is you remember in the movie 300, if you've seen it, when they shoot all the arrows and there's all this arrow coming down and it like blots out the sun? It's like that could easily be a swarm of these creatures which were ever created that were made to basically like
Be smoke.
is his fighting
Yeah.
force, is the evil ones, the one who was given power by the beast, right? Because I
Yep.
think whatever I think Nimrod is the ultimate special boy because he had all of these evil spirits giving him all this information and technology, and he was able to do something with his probably body, mind, and spirit to
Yeah.
actually be able to be the emperor, basically the
Oh
first
yeah,
quote
definitely.
unquote man who was the emperor of the
And
world. I think the first world order of the Watchers, like it was probably a Watcher who was the
almost like almost like the son of perdition, but of that time, almost kind of like that.
And
Kind of, but
and to make
I think those are angels. It wasn't a man. Like I think Nimrod was
I
born a
think, yeah,
man, whereas the Watchers, they were never born as a, like they had physical bodies, but they were never a human being.
they were manifested as angels or whatever. Yeah,
um
like on the
and,
earth. Yeah,
and you got to understand too, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they're just figureheads. There's something
doesn't
behind.
matter. It's what they're doing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
Who cares
but
what
they're
they
just
are? But
they're just spokesmen. There's something behind all this, and they're just in the forefront. So
or
there
they're
could
just
be
the men that are being used to make all these evil machines. You know,
exactly, yeah. They're just they're
they're
just the
like the
face.
speaker of. They're like the speaker. That they're like sort of like a speaker that's going to say everything while it's being acted out or something like that. I know what you're saying, but
Yeah, they're just like
that
the
it's
face
the
of the
fallen
franchise,
angels. Yeah, and
and
that's what
but
it
there's
says
something
in.
greater behind all this.
Yeah, when it says that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, it right away after that, the next verse it says, "And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles." So it's a miracle when he makes fire come down from the sky, and it's deceiving people, you know. But I'm not saying that that's for sure Elon Musk's rocket or something. I'm saying that figure in the Bible or whatever, it is a miraculous thing that he ends up doing, and it's like evil power that
Well,
he's doing it with, you
well,
know.
and another thing is, I think all the special boys that are after Nimrod's heart, they like looking at the Bible and trying to be the ones that make these things come about. Like they want to be those ones. And so I think a lot of the times it's like it's a shadow or a mimicry of the truth because they're trying to manipulate. They're basically testing God. They're like, okay, look, I'll make all these things, horrible things happen, and then this will cause the end, right? And then we finally, get our battle or whatever their hopes and dreams are for. But the reason why I say that is
I
because,
would just put them in that spot. That would just make them the evil ones that the prophets saw. I mean, the prophets described these things, these beasts and things, and then basically, we don't have an answer. We can look at our world and hope that we can decipher what they were trying to describe.
yeah, but I think there's the like the people how it talks about before that are bound with those evil spirits, like they're also bound in chains and cast in with them. So
That's yeah.
those people are the type of people like an Elon Musk, who's obviously a quote unquote, like he's a follower of Nimrod, obviously. And
Father of lies
yeah,
who would
he's
want to ascend into heaven.
yeah, exactly. So he's all for that. And so he just gets pushed to the forefront. What I think all the rockets and stuff are, I think that's very much a part of the Great Deception. I think it's going
What's this?
to
What's this
accumulate
stream? What's the stream called? What's the title of it?
destruction.
Destruction. So when I'm talking, the reason why I have to make this clear, because it's been clear to me, but it's hard to um, to grasp it, I guess, if you haven't thought about it before. But if we're talking about things that men make these days called rockets, they fly up to the sky. And I mean, on my channel, I have video of these things when they break the sound barrier. They put a ripple in the sky. You can see the waters above with your eyes, and they ripple out like they go right through it. And some of these things, the reason why we're being able to understand some of these things is because I'll just say it from Daniel's point of view in Daniel 8. He said, he saw this little he goat and it was fighting with a ram, and he said, and they were going up to the sky, and he said, in Daniel 8 verse 10, he said, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. That I think is destruction. If stars are falling and the sky is rolling back like a scroll, that when that happens, I think that we're being shown clearly that it's because of the what men are doing in the sky, and it has to do with the four winds. That's a very important topic too. In Enoch chapter 18, verses 1 through 5, he sees the treasuries of the winds, and the way Enoch describes it, the foundations of the earth, those are the four winds, and the pillars of heaven are the four winds. So some of these things, like I don't think the firmament is the four winds, but it holds the firmament up. And so I think that what we would call the atmosphere or the air, these rockets are literally having a fight against the air. And every time they launch, you can kind of watch it. You can see all the gas exhaust going all over the place. And then also, I think that those two need to be tied together. These beasts, they all went up to the sky, up to the stars, and then there was a war in heaven in Revelation 12, and there was a dragon.
Hey,
SpaceX dragon?
Joe, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
I know you're on a roll here, bro, but I hate to interrupt you, but I got a quick question, man. When a rocket launches, why does all the gases and everything disperse in only like two directions and not omnipresent? You see what I'm saying? Like I know they can direct it to a certain point, but once it lifts off like half the tower high, what's direct all those gases and smoke and all that stuff?
You mean like what's making it to go to the side?
Yeah.
Oh, they have well, if you just picture, like, if you look down from the sky down at the launch pad, you'd see they call it a flame diverter or a thrust diverter or whatever. And so they have almost like just a tipping ground, and it shoots it out sideways or whatever direction so that it doesn't destroy it.
Yes, I totally get that, but why is it the gases and all the smoke and everything, it still keeps dispersing in the same direction once the rocket lifts off a certain amount of feet? Let's say tower high.
Okay. Because it's actually steam. It's actually steam. It's the form of water, because they actually have to flood. They pump, like, that's one of the most complex parts of a launch pad is the deluge system. If you watch just seconds before the liftoff, you'll always see water just being doused from these huge dispensers all around the launch, and they have to do that because the sound from the rocket is so loud that it will shake apart anything. I mean, it'll just shake apart anything, but water absorbs that energy, and so they have to use water and so the heat from the thrust transforms the water into steam, and then so that's what we're seeing. A lot of people say that that they make clouds, that NASA, or maybe not NASA, but
they emitted the cloud seeding back in Vietnam on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, so it's not a.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the cloud seeding. I'm talking about a specific thing. When they test the rocket engine, it literally makes clouds of steam, because they'll burn it for like 4 minutes or something like that, and it will make a cloud. It's huge.
Well, Joe, I really am sorry to get you off your.
No, I was pretty much done saying what I was saying earlier, so I'm just whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm cool.
Well, what I'm getting at is, okay, let's say the rocket is sitting on the launch pad, right? And it takes off. It starts to take off. Ignition sequence start, and boom, there's this lot of gas and oxygen and water and everything dispersing in two different directions. And I can understand that they direct it in those directions. That way it won't mess up the camera angle and stuff like that. But what I'm getting at is, once the rocket lifts off, say 30 feet, are 100 feet even.
Mm-hmm.
How those gases and all that smoke and water and all that stuff, how come it still keeps going in the same two directions and it doesn't like disperse
Like it
everywhere?
doesn't get pushed away by the jet that's right there pushing against it.
Well, I guess the only thing I could say about that is like if you had a pencil, just like a rocket, I guess, but if there was a flame or a thrust coming right out of the eraser, but it didn't go, it was very directed, very much underneath the pencil and not around at all. Do you know what I'm saying? So like it'll put a hole through something the size of the rocket, but it won't do as much to anything outside that diameter.
Well, I think we're talking about two different things.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Okay, so like an example is if a car is just sitting there with the exhaust, right? Like I say, like a big diesel truck, like you can see it kind of like come out right where it comes out, it's like kind of fluffy, but as soon as it gets into the open air, like all of a sudden it just
kind of
starts
sits there.
dispersing, right? And that's just the open
Yeah.
air. But beneath rockets, you have these like poofy clouds that are coming out, but you have a rocket that is literally pushing in that same area. So how does the clouds the coming from it stay intact while there's like how much like power is coming out of that engine? It would literally push all of that stuff
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And what I would say is that there as it's going up, there's going to be obviously less and less effect on that cloud down there, which we all know that. But the rocket engine, I mean, it's only 12 feet in diameter or whatever, maybe almost 13 feet in diameter. The engines, all 9 of them or whatever, the rocket itself is it's about 12 feet diameter. The Falcon 9 is. So if you think about it, only if you drew a cylinder down from the rocket down to the launch pad, it should really only be affecting probably any of that anyway. And as it goes up, it'd be less and less. So those clouds are kind of out on their own if they're not right where the rocket was sitting, kind of. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Yeah, I totally.
It's like a beam of thrust. It's like a beam of it. It doesn't. It spreads out as it goes up. It spreads out because the air gets thinner. And then if you watch it when it's up in the darkness of space or whatever, when they're flying over, the exhaust goes every direction coming out of the rocket.
True. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I like the way Vader Bear brought up something like if you put a diesel engine, I would like to sort of put it like a second guess on that. Let's say you hook up a hose pipe to the exhaust of a diesel engine, like say a super powered diesel pickup truck. You know, it's gonna belch out that black flume, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But if you've got a hose pipe hooked up to that exhaust system and pumping it elsewhere, it's not going to fill up a stadium, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But now if the diesel pickup takes off and pulls away from that exhaust pipe, that hose is hooked up to exhaust,
Yeah.
then that black smoke is just going to go everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what I had about.
I think I know what you're saying. You're saying, why is that smoke not coming out of the back of the rocket still?
Well,
or because that smoke is mostly just the water that they dumped underneath the rocket. You know.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is how come? Let's say the rocket lifts off the launch pad like 10 feet or 20 or 30 feet. How come does it start dispersing in all directions? It only disperses in two directions at all times while it's on the launch pad.
It's directed. I mean, it's the thrust is directed underneath.
I understand it's directed, but once it pulls away from that direction, it should just start to disperse everywhere, right?
Well, and then I guess, I mean, and I don't know the exact numbers or something, but I think I know what you're saying. But if we actually think about it, just generally, if there was let's say there was a rocket laying on its side and they were going to fire it, right? And we wouldn't want to be 10 feet behind the rocket, right?
Well,
um, but would you take your chance on being 500 feet behind it, or 1,000 feet behind it, or
Well,
what would be that?
I was
There's a
actually
line there
I was
somewhere.
actually gonna say something about that. So, and you kind of brought up a good point. So a rocket's laying on its side, going from one side to the other. That a rocket has way more effectiveness than a rocket that goes up into the air, because a car tires pushes off the ground, a boat's
Yep.
propeller pushes off the water, a plane's propellers pushes off the air. Rockets work very similar, right? So
Yep.
one of my issues with rockets in general is they don't make any sense once, because as they're going up, they're getting less and less effective because they have less and less atmosphere to push off of, one. And two, they say, well, no, space makes it more efficient because they don't have any friction. Well, if they don't have friction, then that means they have nothing to push off against to be
Yeah.
in a type of environment where there is no matter. So,
I'll be honest. That makes zero sense. That if you're going to go up into a place that has nothing, how you? First of all, they say that they can create thrust up there, and that's a vacuum. That's a contradiction. Um, I say this: we know that they make thrust up there, but we all know it's not a vacuum. They talk about it like it's a vacuum, but it's darkness is what it is. Because even during the day, if you go up high enough, you're not in a place that's lit. It's not lit up by the sun. It's darkness. Do you
mhm,
know what I'm saying? The Earth is where the light manifests,
is
and
accumulating, yeah.
yeah.
actually,
So
Joe, I hate to interrupt you again, brother, but I'd
no,
like to
go
talk
for it.
about one thing right quick. But I wasn't trying to get you in a debate, brother.
No,
I
no, that's I like
question.
this conversation. I mean, I'm not. I don't think we're debating. We're just all kind of learning. I guess what I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't see it as
Yeah,
debate either,
Joe.
because sharing the puzzle pieces is only benefit you as long as you're like. Oh, go ahead, Frankie. I got a lot of background noise from you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, Joe, you're saying that beyond the sun is darkness above the so above the sun is darkness to the top of the firmament.
Well, I think in very simple terms that the firmament must be a place of darkness, or in a place of darkness, or whatever, um, because it says in Genesis that God created on the fourth day. He created two great lights, one to rule the day, one to rule the night, and then he created the stars also, and he set them in the firmament. So I'm thinking of it as like a layer, or like just a place. And he set them in the firmament to give light upon the earth, and also for signs, seasons, days, and years. So if the sun, moon, and stars weren't there to put light on the earth, what would the firmament be? Right? It'd have to be darkness. And I'm
Well,
not saying that it's only darkness, but do you know what I'm saying?
it's
Because he set
obviously
them in there.
obviously, like, we're up against water, so if, like, or at least if you take the Bible, it describes there's water above the firmament.
Yep. Yep.
Another kind of
Exactly.
issue is I think that the firmament is a physical object, because every single time the word is used in all its formations of rakia is literally always talking about a physical item that is beaten out. So kind of wrap up the conversation, because we are getting to that time, back to like the whole destruction and everything, is I think that these people were obviously using this information. Like I read, they taught them the movements of the sun and the moon and the astrology and all that jazz. So obviously there's importance in the conversation to that. But when it comes to the kind of main topic of today's episode, is I kind of want to finish up just saying what I see is all the behaviors that we see today are a shadow of what Nimrod was doing, and what Nimrod was doing was a shadow of what they were doing pre-flood. And all that behavior that they were doing is obviously what he calls godlessness, where every part of what they're doing is opposite of him. And I think there are people, real humans now, right? Because I think, like, though we could still have remnants out there, I think for the most part it's just regular humans that are on this place. But I think that that first destruction of the Watchers coming down is going to be repeated with Revelation 9, and then we'll get into that a little bit later.
I agree. I
But
agree 100%.
but what's really interesting, and at least last for me, is a lot of people have a lot of issues with the Father flooding the world and killing everyone from all these things that was going on, or sorry, despite all these things that were going on. And to me, what makes sense to me is that these beings that had evil on their heart only continually, um, just to use it as an example, are basically orcs. And so orcs have taken a hold of the entire world. Saruman has taken Middle Earth, and that all that's left is one human being, like one man that hasn't died and hasn't been corrupted. Um, that's left. And so he killed all of these beings, all these giants, all these mighty men in the flood through the destruction. But people see that as like God spanking mankind because it made him sad. All those things happen. I see it more as a sign of mercy or a sign of grace, where he is allowing that all of us, like if it wasn't for Noah being spared, like we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be
Awesome that
having.
you say that. That's awesome that you see that. I love that because that is, I believe, so important. I'm sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
absolutely.
that's so important to understand what you're saying right now. Okay, I'll let you keep going. That's just so important.
It was a cleansing. It was more of a cleansing of the realm.
Yeah,
But
The
it's the
flood.
grace of God. It's the grace of God that we know this truth. You know that 10 years ago we knew none of this. You know
hmm
what I'm saying? So that I think it's so important to realize that. I think that when he said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free," I think he's talking about right now. I think he's showing us this truth, and it's because destruction is coming, and by the grace of God, I think that we can know the truth. You know.
No, yeah, absolutely. And then um, to kind of to go on from there, all this behavior that would lead to destruction is literally the things that, like we've kind of talking before, like Cain and Abel, like um, and we'll get into the Torah and more stuff like that when we get down into those books. But you see this behavior, at least in the first age is what I like to call it. In the first age, you see Adam and his life, and then it just like slowly deteriorates until it becomes this horrible like place to live, where it literally has to be cleansed. And then after it's cleansed, how we talked about all the evil spirits when these beings die, well, now Noah has to deal with all of these exact same beings, but now in a whole nother form. Now it's not they're going to come and stab you. Now they're going to tell these other men to come and stab you, or to trick your dad into sleeping with, like all these horrible things that we see later on happening after the flood. And then we kind of get a repeat, of Nimrod. But we'll get into that more later on another stream. So
Well, hold on, Vader Bear. How about let's go into extra innings tonight, man? Because I think we're on a pretty good subject, and folks in chat are saying, "Hey, keep it going," because they're enjoying it. And I'm enjoying it too, and I've got a few more questions as well. I
if we're
was
gonna if we're gonna continue, because I don't have forever, but I can also come again next week. But if we're gonna continue, you guys have to let me read a few verses or passages out of Isaiah, and it can happen at any time, but it concerns what we're talking about right now about seeing the truth and it being the end, and like I think that's why we're seeing the truth. Isaiah
Right.
talks about
Part
that.
2, baby.
I was also going to ask you, Joe, if you could come back or maybe say extra innings like in the Discord chat or something, because I've got like a ton of questions to ask, man. But there's only so much time we can cover this stuff, you know, and
that's kind of the cool part about it, guys. So like I get wanting to go on longer, and I appreciate y'all wanting to go on longer. But I also like to keep it kind of a consistent thing, so it's something I can rely on and make sure it happens. And then I don't always
We'll
want
save it
to.
for part 2.
Yeah. So
Yeah, part 2. I'm up for that.
yeah, so we'll do a part 2. We'll spend time talking about kind of the rest of this stuff, as well as Noah, kind of how I was talking about before, and the actual um, thing that befell man during those times, and also after. So let's go ahead and get this shut down now. Of course, even though we're ending this broadcast, there's always conversations to be had in Discord. And if you're not here in the live when we're kicking off, and you don't join us in the Discord now, later this evening, or you can always join us in the future. So there is a link in the description to the Discord. Just join there. And there's a whole bunch of different voice chats you can go to, text chats you can go to share your puzzle pieces with everyone, because that's what this whole round table is about. It's not about saying who's right and who's wrong. This isn't really about teaching one doctrine over another. Now, there are things that I believe in or Anthony believes in that may be different from yours. That's okay. Don't be offended by the puzzle pieces we share with you, because we won't be offended by the puzzle pieces you share with us. And as long as we're willing to endure that, as long as we're willing to able to say, you know,
Amen.
brother and sister, like we're on each other, like we're all, I said this earlier in chat, you know, like we're all on our own individual paths here. And to be walking down a path and to look at another that you cross paths with and say you're on the wrong path, I don't think that's what we should say. We should say, why do you choose the path that you're on? You know, what do
Yeah, and
you think?
learn about why they believe what they believe, or learn more about it, and you don't have to agree on everything to still believe in God and count on his son.
Yeah, because like we're not all drones. Like that's obviously why it's an individual thing, because we all had different parents, we all had different environments, we all had different events and things that happened to us in our lives. So there's no way, and there's literally, you know, like not infinite, but there's as it might as well be infinite possibilities of the type of personalities there could be. You know what I mean? Obviously there's a set number, but what my point is there's certain events that you can go through in your life in certain order. There's only so many of those to a degree, and so we shouldn't ever look at each other and be like, no, you have it wrong. You know what I mean? Because if we say this is what I think, what do you think? That can only strengthen us as long as we're willing to look into it and to prove all things true. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm learning that.
Well, I'm sorry, brother. Before we end the stream, I'd like to shout out to everybody in chat that's here every week. I love y'all. I'm not gonna name everybody in chat, but I love y'all and I appreciate y'all for showing up and hanging out with us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. I'm learning that our walk is our witness. You don't really have to tell somebody how to live. You just show them by your walk. That's what Yeshua did for us. He showed us through his walk
And
how
they
we
can
should
see
live.
it.
And
They can see it when they think you're crazy, but then they learn that you're crazy about something that's actually true if they look into it, and then that could be a huge witness too.
well, and to kind of bounce off of what you were saying, Frankie, you what you're doing right now in this instant and every instant that you have while we're on this plane is your is like you said it but it's also your testimony. You are living your testimony right now to the Father.
Yes.
You
That's
are
true,
giving
and
your recount of your deeds and your actions and your heart and your mind. You are giving to him an account to him right now. You know what I mean?
that's why all the, like Paul, in every letter that he wrote, he said all glory glory to God the Father through his Son Jesus Christ, because Paul was aware of that the things that were happening to Paul, like they were not of him, but it was a super power. His testimony was super powerful because all the people, because he had a horrible reputation, and when he became uh, uh I guess I'd call it a Christian or whatever, um when he was changed to Paul, I guess from Saul. I don't know how to really say it, but um, that
His
people saw
transformation.
that. Yeah, yes, his transformation. People saw that, and even the disciples or the apostles were like, no, not Paul, and then he was like, no, he was preaching boldly, and so like even the apostles, uh, his testimony was powerful to even them.
Amen.
Joe, I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you,
you
Joe.
for inviting me. I love talking about these things. You know me.
I know you, brother. Man, I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us, and I know we didn't get a whole lot into a big discussion about like your point of view and stuff. But man, I hope you come back and chat with us again sometime. And
Yeah. You know what I
we,
think would be a good thing to get into, because I love how we were going through the book of Enoch to certain places, trying to because I think we're all learning. I mean, I've known about some of these things for only a few years of my entire life. I'm learning. I'm like a child, like a young baby learning these things for the first time. And when we're doing that, to go over them over and over again, and to hear other people's point of view of how, just how reality is when we're talking about some of these evil spirits and that are roaming in the earth and things, it can give us a defense that, first of all, that if you understand what's around you, you might appreciate certain things in a different way and handle things in a different way and understand things in a different way. It changes your entire life when you start believing these things.
right,
Um,
that's what this whole roundtable's about, man. We bring all our ideas to the table and try to discuss and come up with a conclusion to it.
Yeah, if you
yeah,
kind
well, and
of see
ask other
from
people
the
what they're learning.
sorry, I was just gonna say like if you see from the logo, we have the Earth, but we have all these missing puzzle pieces, and then
Yeah,
the whole upper part you have this spinning puzzle pieces. Because what is this? What are we?
yeah.
What is all this?
That's what I like about that. I saw that. I've been kind of looking at that, going, I see the sun and moon. I see the puzzle pieces for the earth. I
Uh-huh.
love that because I think that God made it that way. And I think I think Paul was showing that mystery, and I think it was hid from the foundation of the world. Like, that's another long story about how I see that happening. I think something happened on the fourth day that uh, is sort of clear in the scripture that is a mystery. Maybe we can talk about that next week
Yeah,
or
we
whenever.
actually gone into that a little bit about like I was basically describing when he first like creates the heavens and the earth, and he's creating, like some people call it the ether or whatever, but he created the mechanism in which all of this works. And it's like
Yeah.
we have no idea how the things above us work. Like we can touch the ground and the trees and open, like
Yeah.
cut open a worm and look inside and all that stuff. But when it comes to what's above us, we have no way of possibly deducting what we're actually dealing
And
with.
we're actually, I'm proud to say that all you guys here and the people listening, we have we are the actually have access to, in these scriptures, the most reliable idea about what's up there at all, because this day and age, the things that they're trying to do up there are so obviously not what's real,
Mhm.
to me anyway. And I think that they're just being totally fooled. I think it's just a big, all those demons and the devils, I think, are totally playing a trick on everybody.
Oh, 100%. All right, so we've gone past quite a bit already, so let's go ahead and say our goodbyes. We'll start with you, Anthony, and then we'll go through everyone. I'll finish us off, and then uh, uh, I'm going to add you as a friend, Joe, so you can
Awesome.
send me the link, and then I'll add it to the description after it. But anyways,
Okay.
Anthony's, say your shaloms.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Appreciate everybody in the YouTube and for showing up and everything. Y'all like light work y'all here every week, and I appreciate and love y'all. Uh, Next week, I'm gonna be at Take on the World, and we're gonna have a bit of a special live stream from there. And we may even have special live stream from there. I don't know for a fact, but I'm going to try to get people like Rob Skiba and Sean Griffin to chime in for a minute. I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but I'm going to try. But I just want to tell everybody I love you. I love you all, and many blessings to each and every one of you. And Shabbat Shalom. Oh, and by the way, Joe, thank you for showing up tonight, brother. It's been a blessing, and I have really enjoyed visiting with you, brother.
Likewise, I just want to say thank you for teaching me how to get on Discord and do it right. I couldn't figure that out. I didn't know what was going on. So thanks.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one for all of us, man. It's confusing. It's once you get the basics of it, it's pretty fun though.
I'm better at pounding nails.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, you're
Frankie,
good at that.
sign us off, Frankie, or sign off.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Continue to walk in his ways, that you may find favor in his sight, that his grace may be abound to all of you. We're just so thankful to have you. And this is just a blessing to end our Shabbat this way, and just to fellowship and talk about the scriptures and what is to come, and the world beyond. And I'm just so blessed to be a part of this. Thank you so much. And it was really great talking to you, Joe, too. And
Nice meeting you too.
Yes.
Should I go then?
Oh,
Vader?
yeah. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for inviting me to have a chat. And obviously, there's a lot to talk about and learn. And I love that we can talk about it. And actually, like, I learned a lot just from listening to you guys. And I think I think we all do that. And then that's one other thing. We should not only, like, people try to get along and things like that, but I think maybe Vader Bear kind of mentioned this already, but if we look at each other, at all of us, as even the ones you think they're wrong and they don't say the right thing, or they don't believe the right thing or whatever, if they're part of your family or not. And I don't mean your family on earth. I mean the family that is eternal. There is an eternal family full of brothers and sisters. They call it the body of Christ. So I think that's important to recognize, that all the different ideas or different things that we could all have, there's one that we all agree on, and that we all that's the only real important reason why we have any of these discussions anyway. So, but anyway, thank you guys a lot, and hopefully we continue the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And yeah, it's that's my whole my favorite thing about this is like, you know, how I kind of view what you were saying is like while we're on that path, right? We all have our own cross to bear. We all have our own struggles and with sin and and being obedient to the Father. So that exists, but and I've used this I think every show. Iron sharpens irons, and iron sharpens iron, and the requirement to that is you have to have heat and friction, and you have to remove material in order to sharpen something. And so we shouldn't, like as a blade, we shouldn't be mad that that the Father uses other people to come into our lives and bring a puzzle piece to the table that might offend us. But what we should do is we should endure, we should bear that cross till the end, so that because that's what he wants. He wants the people seeking after his heart, not getting to a place where they're all knowing or all powerful or all holy. That's not what he's after. He's not after you to get to a certain place before he loves you. He loved you. Abba loved you first. So if we remember that, if we remember our Father loved us first, and we think He's faithful and true, then when we see other people that are not on the exact same path following right behind us as us, we're able to see and be humble and look at our own pain and our own suffering that's caused us to believe one thing or the other, or view it one way or the other, and to have some empathy or have some mercy, judge others how you want to be judged. Don't you want the Father to look at you and say, like, I know you committed sin, but I know you were after my heart. Like, I know you turned your back on me at times, but I know that you want a relationship with me. And everyone, no single person can decide, does that person have a does that person have a real relationship, or does that person have a real relationship? That's counterintuitive. What we should be focusing on is, what's my relationship? And then if the Father is saying, look at these things, and shows you to research things that we may disagree with, well, there is a point, and we all have to have that faith that there's a point that the Father is showing them. Now, obviously, if they're stumbling and we see it as stumbling, we should say something, but it should always be in love. It should always be and that and sharing this puzzle piece of this world together. So I know that was long-winded, and again, thank you all for being here, even to the very end. We do appreciate it. All those who watch it after, we appreciate you as well. Don't forget to share this so that more people can hear and more people can share their puzzle pieces and take a seat at the table. And last but not least, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for again being here, all dear brothers and sisters. Until next time, I hope y'all have a great week, and remember, Abba loved you first.